Sean here with BaseMint Comics. It's Wednesday, January 14th, and it's New Comic Book Day. So, as per usual, what I do is, since I don't read all of my comics on Wednesday, to try to get content out as quick as possible, because that's not my bag, I tend to go over books from last week, stuff that I really liked, before we hit the trails and head up to pick up our new books and show off the new books when we get back. So I will get right into it. Last week was a light week, only picked up 3 books, and I enjoyed the hell out of all 3 of them. First up, Wolverine, issue number 14, or Legacy issue 406. I kind of lamented the fact that, I enjoyed this series before the Age of Revelation took over, but I've kind of got a weird thing with Wolverine stories where sometimes I feel like writers tend to take possibly an idea that necessarily doesn't fit into the Marvel universe and try to jam it into a Wolverine story. So there was bits and pieces of that run previously that I really enjoyed. The stuff with Mastermind I thought was great. And so this one I was kind of oh, I hope it comes out swinging, and it did. Wolverine is basically doing a very Wolverine-esque, I'm going to reconnect to nature, involving something that happened in the first issue of this series. And he's out and about, and sort of runs out of gas, goes to a gas station that he passed, saw that it looked old, but didn't realize that it was abandoned. When he gets there, there's some mutants that kind of go after him because this is clearly their hideout. And then he gets attacked by Silver Sable because she has been hired by these 2 mutant kids to protect them from anyone that's coming up. So this, you kind of get a Wolverine Silver Sable fight. And then the real bad guys show up towards the end. And the thing that I really liked about this is it's as X-Men fans, we spent a very long time, almost a solid decade, where there were no new characters introduced. Story-wise, it was based on, Scarlet Witch saying no more mutants, and that was the crux of it. But behind the scenes, unfortunately, and this is the thing that I loved about comics when I got into them, was I was unaware of the how the sausage was made. And we all know that this was wrapped up in movie rights, and that's why they wouldn't make new mutant characters. And it was kind of a bum out, and it dragged on for far too long. So I got excited just by the fact that there were 2 new mutant kids in this story. That was enough to put it over the edge for me, where I was well, that's a blast. It's kind of nice to see that felt very early years for me, and kind of hit a nostalgia button without hammering a nostalgia button, if you know what I mean. So there's that. Then we get X-Men number 23, or Legacy number 323. This follows up immediately from the end of Age of Revelation, and obviously Amazing X-Men was the book that took this book's place, which was as far as I'm concerned, beyond the Omega and Alpha issues of those, Amazing X-Men was the only title of Age of Revelation that mattered. And I kind of wish, and I've said this plenty on the show, I kind of wish that they had just done the story, the Age of Revelation story, in the X-Men story, and left the rest of the books alone. And this is kind of so we see what happens to the Cyclops from the future as he's put back in the mind of Cyclops in the past. And this is just something that I wish, I enjoyed this issue. It was good. Art was by Tony Daniel, and oh man, I was the first person recently. I had Tony Daniel was the artist on Gambit and the Externals. That was the replacement title for X-Force during Age of Apocalypse. And I had Tony Daniel sign that at Motor City Comic Con. And he was like, this is the first comic I've ever signed in the Motor City. So I thought that was pretty cool. Anyways, he did great art in this book. The art's great. Story is good. I just wish this story had been a part of the Age of Revelation, instead of us just going 3 months without knowing what was going on, in the story. But then again, I am not a writer. Judd McKay knows what he's doing. And so maybe there's a reason why these kind of had to be told at 2 separate times. So, and this sort of felt a little bit like a self-fulfilling prophecy in that. And so the last book that I picked up last week was Amazing Spider-Man number 983. Really great cover on this. Pepe Larraz's art is fantastic. And this deals with Peter finally confronting Hellgate for the first time since he punched him into space. And so that was great. I really like the Raylith character. Like, I like all of the spacefaring heroes that are in this section of Amazing Spider-Man, but Raylith is by far my favorite. And I am a big, like, I wish Pete was still married to MJ fan. I haven't, and I say that knowing that, like, I'm just like, oh, I wish they were still married, but I'm not, like, raging against anyone at Marvel because they're not, and I'm not, like, obviously I bought the book, I never stopped buying Amazing Spider-Man, but I'll tell you what, I like Raylith so much that I'm like, I enjoy this dynamic, and I really, like, fingers crossed nothing bad happens to her, because I don't think I could take that. So that is the books that I picked up from last week. So Hank and I are about to bundle up because it looks like it is going to snow. So we're going to bundle up and head up to our new comic book shop and pick up our new books this week. I'm very excited about quite a few of them. So let's hit the trails. All right, so we are back from the bike ride up to our comic book shop. I have my warm-up tea here. It was definitely, it was towards the end, like, way to the comic book shop, not that snowy. On the way back, way more snowy. But, we were prepared for it. So, books that I picked up this week. I believe this is the final issue of Battle World. I have enjoyed this immensely if you've been following along this entire time. Ever since, what was it? Avengers Initiative, like a post-Civil War. Like Mighty Avengers was good about that. Avengers Academy was good. I enjoyed Christos Gage's and Dan Slott's like early 2000s, let's get Hank Pym back to being a hero. I enjoyed that immensely. And so this kind of like alternate reality Hank Pym and alternate reality other characters has been an absolute blast, because I am a sucker for alternate reality stories. If you have not been picking this up and you like just good, fun comics, and you're like, oh, this isn't in the regular continuity, so like anything could happen, I would definitely recommend, if you haven't picked it up already, to pick it up and trade. All right, don't know much about this. Dungeons of Doom #1, but I enjoyed the hell out of One World Under Doom and a few of the tie-ins. And so, I mean, why wouldn't I want... Will of Doom was really good. I think that came out 2 weeks ago, maybe. I don't know. But I mean, now that Doom's temporarily, until movie synergy kicks back in, off the table, I'm very interested in what we're going to find in the Dungeons of Doom. I mean, plus, that just sounds cool. Dungeons of Doom. That's cool. I'm into it. Doctor Strange, number 452, or 2, since this is a, renumbering situation here. Strange is in Asgard. Issue #1 was fun. I like Doctor Strange stories. So, I mean, it's nothing that, like, blew my hair back and was like, oh my god, can't wait for #2, but it was definitely a fun comic. So, I'm on board. Speaking of fun comics, Black Cat #6, this title's been a blast. Issue #5 was like the weakest of the first 5, but I love Daredevil, so as you can see, he is clearly on the cover. There is clearly a team up that is probably happening in this, and so I'm pretty stoked to read this. Next are the 3 books I'm most excited for. We get issue #4 of Amazing Spider-Man Torn. This has been, last year they did Shadows of the Green Goblin, which was like a Between the Raindrops early Peter story. And obviously, as a like side thing about the Cornerbox Classics, if you've been watching Cornerbox Classics, I've obviously been reading all of my Marvel comics from the beginning of the universe. And as I was doing the Amazing Spider-Man, like as I was cycling Amazing Spider-Man in once that series premiered, there was a series that came out in the 90s, and it was by Kurt Busiek and Pat O'Leaf, and it was called like Untold Tales of Spider-Man, and those fit in between certain, so that's kind of how I have my comics filed, is chronological story order, not necessarily just straight number series. So like if you look over there in that bookshelf corner over there, that's like that's from all my 60s X-Men stuff is on a spinner rack. And I'm gonna actually, after this video is done, I'm gonna film a room tour finally. So you'll see what I'm talking about. And in that corner over there is giant size X-Men, kind of present as this moves along. And so in there is classic X-Men had like backup stories called vignettes. I've gone in depth on these as well, and so I have those filed with the initial Uncanny X-Men stories. And like ROM, I know there's right after Days of Future Past, there's a couple issues of ROM, like 17, 18, and 19 kind of in there, and it's filed because that's like the X-Men appear in those issues, and so that's kind of how it's done. And so in my I'm pointing to where everything is in the room, where Amazing Spider-Man is in those first issues, whenever Untold Tales of Spider-Man would have fit in there, I have it in there so that, like, if I read the early Stan Lee, Steve Ditko stuff, I also read this Kurt Busiek, Pat O'Leaf stuff at the same time, because it fits continuity-wise into that era of Spider-Man. So there's not like a separate section for Untold Tales of Spider-Man. I have to know that, like, oh, Untold Tales of Spider-Man, 7 was in between Amazing Spider-Man issue 12 and 13. That's how I have it filed. So this is what I would consider like a in between the raindrops, try to figure out where it fits in continuity and kind of file it in there. And then I have a note like in my database of where so that I can go to it and be like, if I'm looking for this, where is it? And sometimes even like on the back of the on the backer boards, I will like make a note of like, this is why this is here, story-wise, etc., etc. Anyways, that is to say, this is a fantastic, old-timey Peter's in college with the old gang blast of a story. So it's great. Again, 4 issues, 5 issues is the final issue. So if you have not been picking this up and can't easily find the single issues in your comic book shop, grab the trade. It's been a blast. And if you've never read Untold Tales of Spider-Man, it's super fun. It's when they were coming out, it was part of this, and this is gonna, anybody that's like new is gonna be bummed out because there's a couple, everything's $3.99, $4.99, $5.99. These Kurt Busiek written and beautifully drawn by Pat O'Leaf, and it was 99 cents. It was like that line of like when they did X-Men, like the early years and like that sort of thing. And it was 99 cents, and it was awesome. Okay, Uncanny X-Men number 722. Happy to have this title back and not be Unbreakable anymore. This has been my favorite of the X-Men titles. I mean, Nightcrawler is my favorite X-Men character. Gambit was my favorite when I was a little kid until I was like really introduced to Nightcrawler, and then he kind of took that top spot. So this team, Rogue, Gambit, Wolverine, Nightcrawler, like teaching the kids, it's like 100% up my alley. I think Gail Simone's been doing a great job, and I look forward to this title every time that it pops up in my, hey, this is what's coming out this week. I get all jazzed. So there's that. And the last book, Avengers number 800. Jed MacKay's Avengers has been fun for me. I don't hear much chatter about it online, but I'm not really worried about what everyone else thinks about it as long as I'm enjoying it. And I know one of the big draws for this is the official return of Brian Michael Bendis to the Avengers and to Marvel. And I will say that I loved that era of Avengers. I know that it's I don't know. I think that there were some like die-hard Avengers, like Busiek, Perez, like that era, obviously fantastic. That new Avengers era just didn't feel like the Avengers, but I really enjoyed it. The event Secret Invasion was actually one of the highs of that like decade of comic books for me. I was so jazzed about that. In fact, I was so jazzed about that when issue number 8 came out, I drove overnight to New York because I'd never been to Midtown Comics. And so I drove to New York, went to Midtown Comics. I drove to New York, saw the Rockefeller tree lighting. Like I was there for that. Went to Midtown Comics, picked up Secret Invasion number 8 from Midtown Comics, and there was this like fancy pants peanut butter and jelly store that made like really like bougie peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and so I went there and I got myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to go, and I took it to Central Park, and the final battle in that series took place in Central Park, so I sat on a rock, I read that comic book in Central Park, and then I went home. Sometimes I can't do that anymore now that I have a 3-year-old, but that's why I did things like that before we had a kid. because I could. Now there's no like, oh, I wish I'd done that. None of that. I did it. So I am excited to, I don't know how everyone else feels about this, but I am excited that Mark Bagley came out of retirement and Brian Michael Bendis wrote a backup story in this Avengers title. And this is going to kick me back. What is it? Oh, if I think about the math too much, it's going to make me realize how long ago. That was like 2008. That was it's going to be 20 years before you, holy smokes. Anyways, yeah, just excited to have him back. And I'm excited to see what Bendis does when he comes back to Marvel. Because I did enjoy his Avengers. I did enjoy part of his X-Men. All right, so that's New Comic Book Day this week. If you like the New Comic Book Day bike ride videos, and if you like Corner Box Classics, and I don't know why you wouldn't, because, you know, classic Marvel, and please, you know, subscribe, give a like. I'd really like it if there was some engagement. I enjoy talking to people about comics, so I'd welcome any comments you want. Even if you're like, I hated the Bendis run of Avengers and here's why, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Yeah, so that is it. And I am gonna sign off now and film a room tour, which I've never done before. So we'll see how this goes. So thanks for taking this ride with us. Bye.